Continuing from yesterday, we were learning the Maharsham. We got a little bit sidetracked towards the end, not that I'm bothered, because we discussed more sort of the hashkafa, and if you remember, things that happen under the chuppah.
Amen.
Okay, bit of caffeine, keep us going. Let's go. So, the Maharsham discusses this Rav who was Meshane Minhag Yisrael. That's how we got to it.
Yeah.
He changed the Minhag Yisrael because of the question of the Pnei Yeshua, right? How can it be right to have a priagofen? A brichas hanenin onto the chuppah, and the Rav doesn't drink. The fellow who makes the bracha doesn't drink. It's not like brichas nisuit. It's not like Kiddush or any of these other things, and therefore it should be subject to the rule of the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah that with a brichas hanenin you don't say yotza moitzi unless the person making the bracha partakes as well, which is the question of the Pnei Yeshua and others. And on the basis of that, and because this Rav was ma'orer that surely you should have to have a malay lukmav, for those reasons the Rav himself drank, and he drank a malay lukmav. Before we go any further, may I draw your attention please to a be'er heitev here, alatar, which escaped my attention initially. But if you hear on the page Be'er Heitev Sifkot and Vav, yeah, so it's on Sif base here. Noagu, where the Mechaber says Noagu lahasder the Birchas Erusin ala Yayin. Look at the Be'er Heitev Yayin, yeah. B'Sefer Be'er Sheva Kosav sheyiz yizoyer hachoson lishtois revius levorich bracha achrona. Says the Be'er Sheva that the choson should make sure to drink a revius. The Knesset Agdola commented on the Be'er Sheva, says the Knesset Agdola, I don't see people, that's not the minhag that the chosin drinks a revius. It seems that the minhag is, says the Knesset Agdola, that a te'ima ba'alma is enough. I hope we'll get to it, but in case we don't and I forget, I saw brought, and I think it's Reb Shlomo Zalman, I'll double check, who says Adarabba should not drink a revius, because if you drink a malay lugmov, then this is right before you do the mitzvah deiraisa of kiddushin, the mitzvah deiraisa of kiddushin. So he may not be totally it depends how strong the wine is, it depends how his the tolerance for alcohol is, yeah. It could be that this person is, remember, if you drunk a revius yain, you can't paskin. You can't engage in hoirah. If he drinks a bit too much, maybe this person will not be totally, so to speak, compos mentis, and therefore it's not a good idea. So he doesn't even say no lugmav, he says a revius. Remember, if you drink a revius, a rav can't paskin. So it means you're not totally able to be serious. And therefore he says, actually, it's not a good idea. Remember, he's been fasting. In many cases, the chosin will have been fasting, don't forget. Maybe we can turn this thing on. Does anybody mind if we turn this on? Oh, no, of course it's not plugged in. Oh, forget it. All right, never mind. Weiter. It's okay, it doesn't matter. Time is too precious. Yeah, let's just have...
fresh, I'll open just a second window.
Please, thank you. I'm not sure that one. Yeah, awesome. That's fine. No, that one doesn't work. It doesn't open, I don't think. This is good. Let's go weiter. So I just wanted to throw in that Be'er Heitev apropos of this Maharsham. Says the Maharsham, V'heishavti, so on the second paragraph in Makor 18, source 18, second paragraph. V'heishavti, Deloy Yofa Osel Shanois Minhag Yisrael. He did not do well. This Rav had the arrogance to change a minhag Yisrael, not good. Okay, are we good, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got it?
Do you have it?
Sorry?
Okay, just
I have it.
No, just find it. I'll wait. It's fine. I will wait. This is where we left off
I
yesterday.
don't have it double.
Okay, I have it.
Good.
And then
Yeah.
go to 18.
Makor 18, second paragraph. Yeah, that's the Maharsham. Not 18, my friend. It's not
It's
18.
not the same. And it starts with V'heishavti.
What is the only one page? you have anything from yesterday?
I have
Yeah,
that
that's
was-
just, I'll sit next to
because I updated it and I sent it round to you. Sorry, do you know what's happened? I do apologise. It's my fault. I misnumbered it. It's meant to be. There are two 18s. My mistake. It's this, I do apologise. When I do the numbering, so it's the second one. It's Shut Maharsham over the page.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Veishavti. Veishavti. Delo Yafas and Shanis Aminag, I answered that he did not do good. Go get chair, no? Go get chair. Delo Yafas and Shanis Aminag. V'gama Pnei Yeshua im ki toma bazeh, even though the Pnei Yeshua asked the question, avol b'chol zeh nidchak shom liyashev. Look at the Heilige Pnei Yeshua, the Goyen Hagodol Pnei Yeshua, who has a knockout punch. Yeah? Mm-hmm. He's got a knockout, but what does he do with it? He doesn't change the minhag. He says, I have a problem. The minhag is the minhag. It must yisoidosoi b'hararei kodesh. It's not like where you sometimes you can have a minhag and there are various minhagim. There is a concept of a minhag b'tos. There is a concept of minhag b'tos. People can do things. I've even heard it to the point a person once said to me, tongue in cheek a little, but only a little. It's the minhag in this shul that we talk in davening.
Schechter gave the shit about me.
Did he?
No, he's very prominent about it.
Correct, but trust me, if something goes directly against now, there is a concept of minhag mevatel halacha, but it has its gedorim. You can't just say any old minhag, and it's not so simple. But one thing is for sure: when you are talking about what happens under a chuppah, which is, one would assume, under the guidance and the direction of somebody who knows what he's talking about, and you'll see soon, by the way, the Maharsham is going to be quite sharp in how he deals with who he thinks this person is. Al kol ponim, a chuppah is done al yidei somebody who is meant to know what they're doing. And this is how chuppahs are done. Now, you have a knockout halachic punch, right? Does not seem to make any sense. It would appear to be a bracha levatala that the Rav doesn't drink. How does it work? So what does the Pnei Yeshua do? He has two options. His one option is to say, this is wrong. I'm going to change it, which is what he did. Wrong. This is a minhag. It must be a seidosei b'hararei kodesh. This is not just people talking in shul. This is the way chuppos are run. Therefore, there is a reason for it. You have a great question. So what does he do? Nidchak. The Pnei Yeshua endeavors to try and find, even if it's somewhat forced and convoluted, but he's nidchak liyashev. Look at his approach. And you know what? In yeshiva we used to say in Yiddish, "Von akasha shtat man nicht." Okay, tzarechiyun. It's a tzarechiyun. Needs. Avoloi molei liboy l'shanoi saminik, says the Maharsham, the Pnei Yeshua. It didn't occur to him. The Pnei Yeshua was a ish gadol ma'od. He didn't want to change the minhag. Okay. We could leave out the brackets, I suppose. So he tries to bring some sort of answer, even though there's no chiyuv b'brichas of the kois. Fine. Chosan and Kala, he starts giving some sort of svara. Go to the bottom of that paragraph, bold. Uledati yesh bozeh chashash la'az al kol hagdolim shalei nohagu kein ad ato. What he's basically doing is he's being motzi la'az on all the gedolei olam who were Masada Kiddushin for hundreds of years, and they've done it one way. And this younger man chick, this Rav, whoever he is, doesn't matter how smart he is, all of a sudden he has a good question. The Pnei Yeshua it didn't occur to the Pnei Yeshua, well, maybe I'm going to change the minhag. No, you have a question, good question. Let's find an answer, but you don't change it. And he says, and actually because I cut this down short a little bit, he says this Rav should not be anybody who does not know Gittin and Kiddushin should not get involved in them. And really this fellow should not be Masada Kiddushin. That's the truth. Anyway, what?
You need to know Gittin to do Kiddushin?
No, you don't. But it's each on its own. Okay. Ube'ika hadin. Yes.
Could you define what the chashash la'az?
La'az literally means you are. We find this in a number of places. To spread, to slander slander, what would be a better way of putting it? In German, I have no clue what it would mean. You are basically denigrating. You are shaming. You are.
Unterstellen.
Yeah, does that one?
But is it a true fact you say or a wrong fact?
Is what's a true fact?
Like, is slander when you say something?
That doesn't matter. We're not talking about Hilchas Lashon Hara, whether it's Lashon Hara, Mitzvah Shemra.
Because in German, then it could be Rufmord.
Rufmord.
Okay, so in English law also,
It's too strong.
Yeah.
La is like a bit more unterstellen.
Okay.
it basically this what you're doing, by your actions, what you're saying is that all the Gedolei Olam who came beforehand and did it a certain way. Oh, you know better. They didn't know. They got it somehow. They got it wrong. Who do you think you are? It's arrogance, and it is, and you're basically saying they were wrong. That's inappropriate. Now, ubeikar dava. Let's move on. Ubeikar din lefian is daiti. Now here, in the same breath, he says b'mechilas kvoid toirosoi harama. That's abbreviation. You should know that abbreviation. He says actually about the main halacha.
Which one?
We're doing the second paragraph now. Ubeikar hadin. Lefian is daiti. I've put it in bold.
Yeah.
Sorry, third paragraph. You are quite right, my friend. B'mechilas kvoid toirosoi harama shel apnei Yeshua, which is a very you see, in English, people always say, with all due respect. You know that if somebody says with all due respect, they're just about to disrespect you, right? They're just about to. But this, it's a Talmudic, a rabbinic expression, but it's a way of saying, that I totally respect the Pnei Yeshua, but although the Pnei Yeshua says that he doesn't understand and there doesn't seem to be a Mekoyer, what's the Pnei Yeshua saying? Like the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch is saying nohagu. There's a minhag. If it's a minhag, then the status of the Ber Pri Hagofen is a regular Birchas Hanenin. If it's a regular Birchas Hanenin, we have this problem. Says the Maharsham with his encyclopedic knowledge, the goinus that was the Maharsham. B'mechilas kavod terosei shel pnei Yeshua nela mimenu divrei Beis Yosef Yeridei Siman Reish Samachei. The Beis Yosef in Hilchas Milah says the following. Guys, where are you? Are you not with us? Just a second. Here you go. Here. Please. There's no point me reading if I'm going through long pieces, and that's why I print them out and give them to you. So it's the second 18. It's on page 9, okay?
Yeah.
I messed up the numbering. I do apologize.
No worries.
So you were quite right, and I will need to go and reprint them again. Okay. Ubeikar din. Let's go. Ubeikar din. Nir lefin is daiti b'mechilas kavod terosei. Follow with me. B'mechilas kavod terosei shel pnei Yeshua. Nela mimenu divrei Beis Yosef Yeridei Siman Reish Samachei. There's a mefurish at Beis Yosef in Hilchas Milah. Behod the kosim shamatu d'noagu las the brichas asher kidesh, depending ala kois. Bris Milah, we make the bracha, Asher Kiddush Yidin Mi Beten, we make it on a kais. The Hevi B'Shem HaKolboy, the Beis Yosef brings from the Kolboy, just Soimchin Shaloi L'Toim HaMoyel. The Moyel doesn't drink. Interesting, we do. But he says, Noyag, the Kolboy says, Soimchin Shaloi L'Toim HaMoyel, the Moyel doesn't taste, Avol Meshagrin Le'eim HaTinoik. They send the kais to the mother. Because of our Beis Yosef, for the kid to taste, that doesn't do anything. The kid is not in the parasha, right? He's not a bar chiyuva. By the way, brackets. The Tashbats actually says that even the kids tasting, very interesting. And there's another avol. Te'imas ha'eim. Im shoymas, it says the Beis Yosef in the name of the Kolboy, the mother tasting the kos. Im shomo habrocha. If she heard the brocha, v'loy hifsikon, she didn't say there was no hefsek. Yesh loymad nafka shapir bebirchasai. She is yotze with his brocha, so she can drink. And he made the brocha. Very pregoven asher kidash. Va'af al gav the birchas hanenin hu. Says the Beis Yosef, this is the same kasha, it's a Birchas Hanenin. Kevan denisakna brocha zu ala kois. given that there was a takana that this bracha should be on the kois, havalei kekasod de kiddusha va'avdalta, then it has the same status as the kois of kiddush and havdalah. Demoitzi acherim gam bebirchas hayayin. You can be moitzi other people also with the birchas hayayin because it's a chelik of the takana. Remember this, by the way, Rabbi Yisai, I want you to remember this. I don't know if we're going to get to it today. Depends how fast I can push you, because this is going to be very important. We'll have to circle back to this concept. By where there's a takana that it is done ala kois, then the Borei Pri Hagofen gets upgraded. Okay? Ayin Shom, that's the Beis Yosef. V'adava muchrach mikol ha-poiskim shevi b'Beis Yosef Shom. Says the Maharsham, this is evident from all the poiskim. The tishter hayoldos hayoledes oyatinoik shaloite bracha levatala. That the mother drinks so that it shouldn't be a bracha levatala. V'arei Beis Yosef shevi shom mikoydem d'minig zeh shalatur levarach ala kois loy nimtza loy mekoyer rak shemuchach midivrei hamaforshim. The Beis Yosef himself says there, why do we have a kois by bris milah? He says, it's not loy nimtza loy mekoyer. He didn't find a mekoyer, it's a minig. It's mentioned in the Maharsham, it's a minik. So it's not a proper takana. Doesn't have a makor me'ikar adin. The Beis Yosef himself, you see what the Maharsham is doing? Genius. He's putting two pieces within that Beis Yosef and Hilchas Milah together. Number one, the Beis Yosef says, this bracha that we do ala kos, there's no real makor. This is the Maharsham saying, this is what we do. And then he goes on to say, in the name of the kolboy, and he can go and give it to the mother. Whoa, how can you put those two things together? The teretz is, you see, since that, at the end of the day, and it makes no difference what the makor is, whether it's a makor me'ikar adin, whether it's a takana, whether it's a minik. If this now is how we do bris milah, and therefore there is a Borei Pri Hagofen, then it is elevated from a regular brichas hanenin, where the person making the bracha has to be Chayim. You see, it doesn't matter. Now, if we put that together, says the Maharsham to the Pnei Yeshua, job done. It's a mefurish Beis Yosef in Hilchas Milah. Why are you asking now about kiddushin? Noagu, so what Noagu? But you see the same thing by bris milah. And then the Beis Yosef says mefurish, that it's okay, b'shem the kolboy. So he's found an answer. Genius of the Maharsham. You with me?
May I ask in terms of halachic procedure, let's say, we have now a source and argument plays out very well, but the base for this is the kolboy.
Yes.
Is the kolboy, I'm not familiar with the kolboy.
The Rishon, one of the Rishonim.
Okay, so that would be enough of an authority.
Absolutely, the Beis Yosef quotes him. We would, of course. Sure. So Lemaisa, halacha lemaisa, by the way, you know, halacha lemaisa, we don't send it to the mother. The Rav makes the bracha, actually. Or the fellow whoever's given the covenant of making the bracha, he drinks. Mm-hmm. So it's not quite what we do, but that doesn't matter. You've established, the Maharsham has used the Beis Yosef to establish a halachic principle. That where there, for some reason, there is a Borei Pri Hagofen, even though it may not have a makor in Shas, or that it's part of the mamash, the takana, it may only be perhaps even a minik, but the minute that is what we do, we now have a kolboy, a primary source, one of the Rishonim, who we utilize a lot, that it gets elevated to the status as if it was a kiddusha v'avdalta, and therefore the mavorich does not need to be Chayim. You can send it to somebody else. Okay? Before I forget, somebody make a note. I will print it out. I will show you. There's a Mishnah Brura and a Magen Avraham in Siman Tov Kuf Nun. What do we do if there's a chuppah on a tanis? You can have a chuppah on a tanis, theoretically. Right? Mishnah Brura and Magen Avraham discuss what happens when there's a chuppah on a tanis. Who drinks? Remind me, we're not going to do that today, but we'll get back to it. Right?
The question is,
who is going to drink the wine?
Maybe like bris milah on Tisha B'Av.
That's why it's in Hilchas Tov Kuf Nun, which is the halachas of the 9 days, the halachas of Tisha B'Av. Now we wouldn't have a chuppah on in the 3 weeks. We're not going, but you can have a chuppah. Theoretically, you could have a chuppah on a tanis, and then what happens, right? And from that, we'll be able to circle back to the Pnei Yeshua as well.
When are we going to talk about it?
Whenever I get round to it, but you're going to remind me, because I need to, that's why I told you. Velochein, in bold. Velochein. Birchas milah ala kois. I've highlighted it for you guys. Okay? Towards the end of the paragraph. Velochein birchas milah ala kois hurak minag. Veloin is kabashas. Aval birchas eiris into tzorich kois. Again, genius of the Yerushalmi. Genius of the Maharsham. Sorry, I'm tired. But the Birchas Erusin to Tzarech Kais nimmt so Yerushalmi Perek Ches Soita. Imagine being able to just quote Yerushalmi in the 8th Perek of Soita. He says, the Pnei Yeshua says, here we have a Rambam says Nohagu, right? The Rambam Ki Yodua does not give his Makoros. He always writes halachas, and all the Maharsham spend a lot of time and effort trying to work out where does the Rambam get things from. The Pnei Yeshua is going on the fact that it's just a minhag, says that Maharsham has now done it, he's turned it round. He says the Beis Yosef himself says there's no real Makor in Shas for Milah. Nonetheless, the Cowboy says, the Mavorich does not to be Tayim. Birchas Erusin is a minhag, says the Maharsham, it has a Makor. It has a Makor, it's Yerushalmi. So it's even better. So Kal V'Chomer. So we have the Pnei Yeshua does not have a question. The Maharsham was such a gadol. Then his next point about Loy Lugmov, he goes into it. I don't want to go into it in detail. You know what? Let's go to the bottom of the page, 3 lines up. The second point was how much do you need to drink? Yes, 3 lines up towards the end of the line, bottom of the page, 3 lines up. Va'omnom. Va'omnom, hine b'knesses hagdola b'be'er heitev sham. We looked at it just before you guys came in. The be'er heitev alatar, yeah? Hevi b'shem bash, sheyizoher achoson lishtois maloi lugmov. And the knesses hagdola said, ein noyagim kain, and a te'ima ba'alma is enough. Yes. Da-da-da-da-dum. So he says, our minhag is that there is only a te'ima. A te'ima is good enough. Go to where I've put it in bold. We're over the page. We're on page 10. In bold. Al kain. Lo yoivu v'lo yishmu divrei harav hamafakfe kanal. Do not listen. Pay no attention to the Rav hamafakfek. The guy, the Rav, this Rav was saying that the minhag is all wrong. U'minhag shel Yisrael toirahu. Ulefian is daiti, here is where it is. It's not Reb Shlomo Zalman, I misremembered, as Hillary Clinton famous said. I misspoke. Ulefian is daiti, except that she was lying and I'm not. Ulefian is daiti, sorry. Im yitoi machosan. I thought it was Reb Shlomo Zalman before. Remember I said I thought it was Reb Shlomo Zalman? It isn't, it's here, it's right here. Ulefian is daiti. We are on page 10, yes, in the bold. Ulefian is daiti. Im yitoi machosan meloi lugmov mikos erusin adarabba. Says the Maharsham, if he's going to drink a malay lugmov of kos erusin, ulipamim hu mashke meshaker, and sometimes it is going to be strong wine. V'yesh chashash ala kiddushin, demehai tama noagu lehisanois. That is the reason a chosen fast. Cheekful. Actually, in the Be'er Heitev here, he brings from the Be'er Sheva, it should be a revius. It should be a revius. But look at this. Although we haven't really learned this yet, did you know this, guys? This is why the Chosim fasts. The Mogen Avram, Simon Tovkuf Ayin Gimel. The Mogen Avram says that. Do you know why Chosim fasts? So that he shouldn't arrive hungover and not in a fit state of mind, and I don't know what. That's why. And for that, you're going to now go and give him a revius of Yain HaMashaka under the chuppah 10 seconds before he's Mekadashah. Hagabatzmacha. That's insane. So he's actually, look what he's done. As always. In Cain, takonosoi hu kilkuloi. This Oberchacham, whoever he was, thought he's making things better. He is making things worse. The Imkain takonosoi, he thought he's being masakan, hu kilkuloi. He's being mekalkel things. He's messed up. That's the reason we fast, says the Mogen Avram, so that he shouldn't be in any way intoxicated. So he shouldn't be able to turn around later and say, it was a drunken joke or something. And now this Rav, by being mefakfik on the Minig Yisrael, has ended up being, it's what we call chumra de oseli de kula. You will find this often in halacha, that you think it has a knock-on effect, there is a consequence. It will impact another halacha, and that will impact another halacha. And you always, very often, a chumra will be oseli de kula. So you have to be careful. And this Oibachacham, takonosu kulkulai. Rakim arav ba'atzmo yishte. Avalo ikak fi aminig beloi pikpuk. This is what we do. Pikpuk means no, don't worry about it. Don't need to be concerned at all. That is the Maharsham. Okay? Let's move on now to Halacha L'Maisa. Beautiful Maharsham, I thought. Let's move on to Halacha L'Maisa. It says source 19. It is actually 20. I will reprint. Okay, Afikeyah. The Afikayam was a mechutan of Reb Zalman Sorotskin. This is now going into the next generation, and you'll see very shortly which generation we're talking about, because you're going to see he's going to say that he asked this shaila to the famous Dayan in Brisk, Reb Simcha Zelig Riga, the famous Dayan, who was in Dayan and Brisk at the same time that Reb Chaim was the Rav, and that led to a lot of very interesting. They had very different approaches, and but this is just to put it into some sort of context. Says the Afikayam, source 19. Ro'isi v'nosati el libi badova hanohog etzleinu. I decided to investigate that which is our minig sh'hamesad ha'kiddushin mevorach al hakois. This is the same question again, but here we're going to start giving you some sort of practical guidance. Okay, so the mesad ha'kiddushin is mevorach al hakois ve'enoi toim klum mimenu. He doesn't taste right. I do not understand. The same question as the Pnei Shua, right? Where does this come from? Right? That is the loshon of the Afikayam. V'hinei, v'hainu, hinei kaim along. This is the explanation. But by Birchas Hanen in Yotzei na Moitzi, there ain't al zeh arvus. There is no arvus for Birchas Hanen in Verakim Gam Hu Toyem. Then Yochel Hitzis Chaveiroi. Varmina Bigamar Rosh Hashanah say Paragimel Chutz Priagofen Bekiddush. V'Hamotzi Lechem in Oretz b'Matzah. The Yotzei Moitzi Kim Dav Choy v'Machmas Kiddush v'Matzah. V'Yesh La'ayin im Kavona. Okay, fine. So this is the question. You're familiar with the question. Second paragraph. V'Hinei. Birchas ha'erusin loy bo'ina levarach al hayayin me'ikar adin. Me'ikar adin, there doesn't need to be a bracha on the yayin. Rak minhag levarach al hayayin. U'koloshon ha'Rambam perek gimel be'ishus. V'noyeg ha'olam lahazde bracha zu birchas ha'erusin al kois shel yayin oy shal shecha. Ve'im yesham yayin mevarach al hayayin tchila. And then you make the bracha. V'achkach m'kadish. If there's no yayin or no shecha, you make the bracha without a yayin. V'chein posak b'shulchan aruch even ezesim lamdad sif beis our sif v'hatam shenagu kein kosav oritva. This we haven't seen yet. The Ritva writes, why is this? Where does this minute come from? The Ritva writes in Kedusha, in Ksubas, because it says Mekadesh Yisrael Elidei Chupas, it's like a Kiddush, so the minute developed to say it on a case. Kishar Kedusha, it's like all other expressions of Kedusha, Sha'omrim ala case, we say on a case. Umeato. Kivan shebrichas erusin eino tu una kois meikar adin. So it's a brichas hagefen, which you make before, like kistam brichas hanenin she'eino moitzi lechaverim and itoyim im kain im lo yitem amsad kiddushin. It should be a bracha levatol. Final paragraph. Uba'asher hadovar hoya ma'od muzar be'enai. Says that Fikayam. Because this was so strange in my eyes, sha'alti b'zeh es kvedi didi harav hagoin meirein Rab Simcha Zelig Zatzal Roish Av based in the Brisk. So I asked the Brisker Dayan, the famous Brisker Dayan, Reb Simcha Zelig, who had a reputation, I don't get too many mices or stories, but he had a reputation for, it was really interesting that he was Mishamish with the kahuna, not of the Rabbonis, but of being at the Abbastin, at the time where Reb Chaim was the Rav. And they had very, very different approaches. Reb Chaim's approach to Lomdus was the Brisker Derech, the analytical, not pilpulic, but the analytical approach, as is basically the standard model of learning in the Olam HaYeshivas today. Reb Simcha Zelig was very much into Bekius, much more into Bekius. Now, he was a Goyin Otzel, and he, there are stories I can say, but maybe not for now. But he also had a reputation as being quite makel, quite lenient. Okay, Ad Kan. So I asked the Brisker Dayan this question. She'onoli, and he answered, Shamati mehagrach Soloveitchik Zatzal. He said, I heard from Reb Chaim, Ki harav Reb Yaakov Meir Zal, Meira Tzedek mi Minsk, that the Minsker Dayan, Reb Chaim told the Brisker Dayan, that the Minsker Dayan, hoya min hogoi, Ki hoya lo yayin, he had wine, va'acha shegoma birchas hanisuin, and when he finished the birchas hanisuin, and I think when he says birchas hanisuin, he doesn't mean nisuin as opposed to erusin, I think. Nirash hoya machmir gamba birchas hanisuin, hoya shoyse mizeh. He would drink. V'gam hagrach zal atzmoi, says the Brisker Dayan, that Reb Chaim's minhag was Shahaya Nishbach Ktsas Al Yodai. Next time you're under a chuppah, have a look. There are two types of Mesadri Kiddushin, or rather there are two minhagim. There are some Rabbonim who will do this. It's known as you can call it the Brisker shuffle, the Brisker shake. That a little bit of the wine. Now, if they do it, hopefully they do it in a way which is a bit discreet, because it may not look very pleasing to the eye. But what would you do? A little bit of the wine would either inevitably or invariably would spill onto his hand, and he would, after the bracha, whilst giving it give the kos to the mother, the father, whoever it is, he would lick his hand, and thus it would be a te'ima from the yain. And there are Rabbonim and Dayanim who do this.
Have you seen that?
Of course I've seen this. Yeah, but
you don't do that.
I personally don't, and we'll come to that. We'll come to. We still have a little bit way to go. We're going to talk. We're going to do hopefully the story of the Brisker. What happened at the chasna in Netanya of the son of the Brisker Rav. We'll come to that in a second. So this is what the Reb Chaim used to do. But look, he says, ba'ofen sheloi hirgishu haroyim ad kan l'shoynoi. The Brisker Dayan says that he observed Reb Chaim would do this, but he would do it in a way that was discreet, for obvious reasons. It does not look very seemly, we'd say in English. It's not very dignified. But this is what he would do because Reb Chaim was concerned, he had this halachic concern of the Pnei Yeshua, and therefore he would lick his hand. Umatoi v'nochot, says that Fikayam, Umatoi v'nochot hoyo l'sakein shehamavorich ba'atzmai yitoi mikos shel brocha leman lotzes mechashash brocha levatolo, says that Fikayam, perhaps it would be a good idea indeed to institute that, pass these around, that this should indeed be the what people should do. Next new sheet, and this is from the Madali Yom Tov, and this is really source 21. It should be. It's okay. Again, I'll redo it. You got it? The Rosh Yeshiva, are you with me, guys? Top of page 11. The Rosh Yeshiva, Reb Shmuel Zatzal. This is the Ponovich Rosh Yeshiva, Reb Shmuel Rozovsky. Yes? Yes. The Rosh Yeshiva, the Ponovich Rosh Yeshiva, Siper, he told over a story. Shahagriz Zatzal, that's Rabbi Yitzchak Zevni, a.k.a. the Brisker Rav. The Brisker Rav, B'chupas Benoi Benetanya, in the chuppah of his son in Netanya, Omar la Rav Masada Kiddushin, he said to the Rav who was Masada Kiddushin, Sheyechavein lahoitzias hachoson yidei chayvosai b'shtei abrochos. He should have kavanah to be moitzi the choson with the two brachas, birchas priagofen ubirchas erusin. The Brisker Rav told the Masada Kiddushin, have kavanah to be moitzi my son who is the choson. Both in the bracha bei priagofen and birchas erusin, ve'ilu lahakala. Have kavanah to be motzi the kala only in the Bayrit Priyagofen, not the Brichas Erusin. Why? Presumably because she has no mitzvah. And this is brought Huva b'Seif Hadras Kodesh Lagun Tzvi Pesach Frank Zatzal B'Nin Nisuin. Lefiza lechura sviralei. It would therefore follow the lechatchila loitana omein. Therefore, on the Brichas Erusin, according to this Brisker Rav, the kala surely should not say amein. Because she's not yotze with this bracha. It's not her bracha. And therefore there's a hefsek. She has one bracha only. That's ber priagofen. If she's going to say amen to another bracha, which has nothing to do with her, then there's a hefsek between the ber priagofen and her drinking. So she can't drink. However, the minhag today in Brisker is she'ein the kala shleitana amen. The minhag is not to say to the kala, not to oina amen. Hagam diyesh lodun. Even though really then, we do have a bit of a problem. Al etzem hashtia, on the drinking, bein habrocha l'shtia, there's a hefsek. V'yesh k'tzas diuk b'sefer chinuch. Remember we had this diuk in the sefer chinuch, where the chinuch says that the chosin says amen. Remember? Yes, you do, good. Because the chinuch says, v'hu oine amen, mashma not her. But that you could push aside. Second and final paragraph, me'idoch gisa, on the other hand. We're not going to finish this, but let's try. Minhag ha'olam, the minhag ha'olam is that the kala does say amin brichas erusin. Omnam shamanu, sheyeshnam roshi yeshivos, kashehem misadrim kiddushin, heim omrim la kala shlei onatana amen, al brichas erusin b'nei sofik hefsek. In other words, there are different opinions. I think it is fair to say the standard model is that the Rav says to the Chassan and the Kala have Kavanah to be Yotza, both brachas, and the Kala does say Amen. But this needs a little bit of an explanation because it would seem, Pashtos, she does not have the mitzvah of Birchas Erusin. What is she saying Amen on? And why is it not a hefsek? Why is the actual bracha of Birchas Erusin not a hefsek? Because remember, there's Boin Priagofen, then Birchas Erusin. So whether she says Amen or not, there's a long pause between the Boin Priagofen and her drinking. Remember, if the Rav's not drinking, if the Rav drinks, you're a little bit better off, possibly. But in terms of hefsek, if it's not her bracha, Birchas Erusin has nothing to do with her. And she's going to drink. And she says Amen to a bracha which has nothing to do with her. And there's a long hefsek, a pause, when the Rav goes on with a whole long bracha which has nothing to do with her. How does that work? That we'll have to do on Monday. Okay.